Welcome to the PaleyFest Fall TV Previews. I'm Jack Rico, journalist, film, and television critic, and I'm delighted to be your host for this special conversation celebrating NBC's Lopez versus Lopez. And thanks to Citi, the festival's official card and official sponsor, for their help making this program possible. Today, we are thrilled to welcome the members of the series' gifted cast and creative team. Joining us are executive producer and star, George Lopez, producer and star, Mayan Lopez, and showrunner and executive producer, Debbie Wolf. Welcome to everyone watching. Let's start our program. First of all, congratulations on Lopez versus Lopez being the first Latino father-daughter sitcom on television. Did you guys know this?
Yeah, we're making freaking history here, Jack.
Well, Debbie, this question is for you. Lopez versus Lopez is a working class family comedy about dysfunction, reconnection, and all the pain and joy in between. Lopez versus Lopez sounds like an idea that could have easily been conceived in the Lopez household, but it was you who came up with it. How did the idea come to you, and what were George and Mayan's first reactions when you pitched the concept to them?
So I'm a huge fan of George Lopez. He's my comedy icon hero. And I was a huge fan of the original Lopez show. And I had the honor of working for the original show showrunner, Bruce Helford, on The Conners. So that was such a blessing. And so it was anyway, there's one night, it was 3 a.m. and I was doing my best to avoid writing. And I was scrolling on TikTok, as one does. And I came across George's real life daughter, Mayan. I was like, oh my gosh, cool. And I started watching it, and she had this incredibly hilarious post where she was talking about how her dad cheated on her mom, she divorced him, and she got this hella settlement, and she was twerking in the entire video. And I was just like, okay, this is a show. And I immediately emailed Bruce Helford, who was also avoiding writing, and he was up at 3 a.m. And he said, I agree. And so from there, we met with George and Mayan, and I was like, look, guys, I want to do the Gilmore Girls, but with the Lopez's. And they were like, we're in. And that's basically how it came to be.
Nice. George, Mayan, was this an easy yes, or was there some hesitancy on your part?
I mean, for me, it was an immediate yes. I've always wanted to work with my dad in this way, and I don't think it was something that we really expected, but just knowing the history of, my dad's previous show, the George Lopez show, it seemed very familiar with our family, and just like we had something gritty and real, and that was something that made that show so special. So it's like, hey, let's see if lightning strikes twice.
If I may speak as the philanderer of the show,
there we go.
All of the shows that have gone down in television history, we all remember 40 years later. In comedy, the unfortunate part and the beautiful part is in theater, the mask of comedy and of tragedy, that, what remains compelling are the relationships and the love and trying to reconnect when time you don't own. So Debbie came with a concept that was very kind of true and real. And Jack, in the realness of the show, I actually thought that it was going to be animation, because I thought, well, this is a little too hard.
Real
actors, but cartoons. But I'm glad that I got to see Mayan every day, and hopefully for the years to come, and work on the things that we love.
So for Mayan, this question comes from festival sponsor Citi. Lopez versus Lopez will occupy a unique place in television history. What are some of the gifts of having the opportunity to play this role opposite your father?
Well, first of all, seeing him on a consistent basis, like my dad said, that hasn't happened since I was like 10. So, even just having my dad there, but seriously, it is such an amazing experience and opportunity. And I'm grateful every single day for Debbie and the whole team. And NBC has been so incredibly supportive. And just to be able to explore our relationship like this, the good and the bad. And it's very surreal because it's very real. My dad is a master comedian. He's inspired many. He's inspired me. And it's really a dream come true. And I feel like our characters are going to help us. And this is a real instance of where comedy is going to heal.
Debbie, television is full of dysfunctional families. What is unique about the Lopez family dysfunction that you believe will make for good television?
Well, first of all, it's a Latino family, so we're not going to hold back when we're talking to one another, like white people do. Like, we say mean things, we fight it out, and somehow we still love each other at the end of it. And, and second, like we said, this is a real father and daughter who are still in the process of repairing their relationships. And the stories that we're telling, are based on their real experiences, past and present. There's actually times in the show when we're shooting where they're not performing, they're actually talking to each other. So I think that that's very unique and special.
George, this is your return to primetime network television 15 years since the George Lopez show ended on ABC back in 2007. How are you approaching this Lopez show versus your ABC show?
Well, Jack, it's such an honor, and it's got to be an unexpected honor to be on television at any portion of your career. And, I was so new in 2002 that I had to really work on more just having an identity that people would like to watch and, making stories and creating a family that was not too over the top. And when we dealt with issues, but it was more of a family show than this one is more. How times have changed even in the 15, 20 years since the show premiered, but also the appreciation in the last 15 years, I do realize how hard it is to get back to where people strive to be their whole careers. And the fact that, Debbie was able to bring us a show and NBC's been so great and Universal that, I'm going to take every moment and every second and every day and just be grateful to be able to work in this business.
Now, this question is to all of you. How much of what happens in the show is based off real life scenarios and how much of it is fiction? As I watched the pilot, I couldn't figure it out. So I was curious to ask this question today.
Well, I think the way that it works, I've had many conversations with George and mine of pages and pages of notes, and they'll say a phrase or they'll mention an idea or like a scenario, and that will spark an idea for an episode for me. And, I will take it to I have an incredible writer's room of amazing writers, and we'll flesh it out and we'll add our own experiences to the mix. Everything in the show might not have happened exactly to George and mine, but it's happened to somebody, and that's what's important to me is like telling like very authentic, honest stories, because those are the ones that are going to be relatable to everybody. So it is sort of a blend of their lives and the lives of the writers.
And if something does come up, I definitely call Debbie. I'm like, Debbie, you have to hear about what just happened.
I'm like, keep me posted.
It's so fun to be collaborative in that way. I think I'm willing to go for it. I think my therapist has heard enough about it. So, hopefully, it can inspire and create conversations through the people and the fans that watch.
Mm-hmm.
George, is this show therapy for you?
Well, I think TV is therapy and movies and escapism of the things that we enjoy in our lives. I was watching All in the Family yesterday, and in father-daughter relationships, in family relationships, there's breaks. I mean, there's issues with my real grandmother that I never got to reconcile, and even in the divorce, Maya and I went years without talking, and it was very difficult to be able to find somebody that you could share your emotions with, knowing that this was maybe the most difficult time in my life. And Arsenio Hall was going kind of through the same thing. And he told me to hang in there, that they come back. And the idea that there are fathers out there and family members who have sons and daughters, whether the preference of how to live their lives or how to identify themselves, or just in divorce or whatever, that are kind of maybe excluded from the family. And it just might take that first step that most older people, father parents, have pride. Just don't close your heart to anything. And just remember that it's the most precious thing that you have is this child. And I think this show can be therapy most definitely, Jack.
All right, this question is also to all of you. The show is a comedy, but it gets piercingly emotional. How did you decide how much of your personal life you wanted to insert into the show, and how vulnerable do you need to be for this show to work? Can you just get off on the laughs?
It's definitely weaving in the technique of sitcom and multicam because I always make a joke, like I could go full HBO with it, but I have to remember that I'm like it's like we're making people laugh here. And we do. And because we find the moments in real life that are the only way to release is laughter. And I feel like we've worked really hard, and Debbie's worked so hard with the writers to find that right technique. And my dad and I and the whole cast, Lennis Leyva, Matt Shively, like we do such a good job. Al Madrigal, we do such a great job of showing that as of right now. So,
I want to say, in seeing Mayan, it's almost like, a movie where the guy sees through his eye. It's a cyborg, a futuristic eye, and he can see the future, what's going to happen. Total Recall, you could see through people that see the guy had a gun and all this. So when we're working and I look at Mayan, I can see Mayan as a newborn. I cut her cord, and walked down the hall with her first moments of life. I can see her at her 2-year-old birthday party. I could see her at the first party at my grandmother's house with my aunt, had this big cake with this Barbie that had a real cake dress. And then the Barbie was all at the top. And my grandma was like, that Barbie's going to fall. It's like, for a 1-year-old cake, that thing, it took 3 guys to deliver for the bakery. But that's how the Latino family is like, listen, if it's 1-year-old, it's for everybody. I'm not going to remember. But the idea that I can scroll through the different faces that Maya's had growing up. She was on the first show. And I remember that we did a scene toward the end of the first show, and Luis Garcia, who played my son, I kind of knew that the future of this show maybe was not going to continue. And he and I were doing a scene in the backyard, and I started to tear up because I looked at him and I said, I remember this kid when he walked into the casting room and he was 8 years old. Knowing that this might kind of be the end of our working relationship made me emotional. So remembering that, and also remembering that, listen, Debbie is fantastic, Latina woman, whatever. I mean, she's an incredible writer. She's assembled an incredible writing team. And really, that's the water that floats the boat that keeps the ocean alive is the writers. And they say it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. They work so hard, and knowing, because I did it once already, I feel like it has all of the elements that this show can continue and be important every year and be important for a lot of years to come.
Now I'm in tears because anytime George compliments me, I'm like, oh my God, he's talking to me.
Me too. I'm like, Dad. Oh.
See, Jack. You see?
You guys are funny.
I have an ankle monitor that only responds to compassion and just makes my leg feel.
You know what, George? You touched on diversity a little while ago, and I wanted to ask all of you about this. At a time when Latino shows and films are being canceled, Gordita Chronicles on HBO, Batgirl with Leslie Grace, a Dominican.
Yeah.
How does Lopez versus Lopez help correct some of those clear gaps?
Yeah, I think it's really unfortunate that our shows keep getting canceled. Like, in the words of George Lopez, it's like, we can't do nothing. Like, that's really what it feels like. But, you better believe, like, we're working really hard, to make Lopez versus Lopez. Like, we're not messing around. We're going to make this a hit, Jack, because, like, we want to open doors for more Latino shows so they can't tell us nothing.
Yeah, if anything, it's more motivation. Yeah. We're going to keep making the best show that we can, keep telling our stories,
Yes.
As much as we don't have any control over that, NBC has been extremely supportive, and we're going to keep doing it for the culture. And honestly, for me personally, like, that is such motivation to go into work every day, that I'm, me and my dad, like, and, me as a young Latina woman in this space, like, people are going to look at me and I'm going to be a representation that I always wanted to see, and that I'm more important now. We're all so important right now.
Yeah. I remember the first time I felt represented was when I saw America Ferrera and Real Women Have Curves, and since then I haven't seen me. Yeah. So now we have Mayan Lopez, so it's a dream come true to be able to have this strong Latina woman in a lead role on a network sitcom. It's revolutionary.
I want to say, Jack,
George,
we just finished doing The Blue Beetle in Atlanta and Puerto Rico, the DC movie, the Hispanic, first Latino superhero. There's a few other ones, but also That happened at the time that Discovery bought Warner Brothers, and we were in Puerto Rico one night, and the producers of the Blue Beetle, who were always there, but then a couple other guys flew in, and we kind of huddled there, and I probably shouldn't. They let us know that the question from Warner Brothers was how far along are we into this movie? And clearly now, weeks after seeing Batgirl and Gordita Chronicles, you realize that this business was built on creating product that people would love and enjoy and see for years and years to come. But if we're going to start to approach this business as how can we save money? Where can we make cuts? What personnel can we let go? We're going to destroy the business that everybody in the world has had a part in. Everybody's watched TV. Everybody's gone to a movie. And if we're going to get to the point where it's about numbers and not about how much you can make and how you try to make the world look like the world looks and identify with people and bring all people into the movies, I think we're going to be biting the hand that has fed us and biting the hand that has been able to create for decades. I think it's just a bad precedent to look at things to get rid of.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, this is my last question for all of you. What does being a good father mean to all of you today?
I think for me, it's almost kind of like what my dad is doing now, being able to look past some of his, programming and be able to at least see me, acknowledge my experience, even if that's not the person that he was today when he hurt me. He can still be like, I see you. And even something just as simple as validating your child's experience, it goes way deeper than I think a lot of parents realize, is just being able to see each other and, approach from empathy and understanding, just trying to find some common ground. I'm just leading with love always.
Yeah, I agree.
Debbie?
What is a good dad? I mean, I'm a bad dog mom, so I don't even I forgot to feed the dog this week. Yeah, I think being a good father is, just recognizing that your child, especially when your child becomes an adult, is a whole other person with other experiences, and they may not agree with you, and just accepting that and letting them be who they are, and honoring them for that, and one thing I think is very one thing that my dad didn't say to me until I was much older was, I'm proud of you. And just those words, I think, are so powerful. We're going to do a whole episode about this, but just for a dad to say those words to his daughter, I think are a lot. They mean a lot.
You can't fall back on your past as an excuse for bad behavior as an adult. I didn't have a father. I didn't know my father. And I played in Little League, and I love baseball, and I was always given a ride to and from the games, or if I walked by someone else's father, and in pictures, sometimes, the baseball coaches were fathers, were sons were on the team. And to be surrounded by that and know that, I was just different back then. I mean, I think you start to assemble what is going to be the future of your career, whether it's comedy or anything. In third grade on Father's Day, I hated Father's Day because in school they would make you make a Father's Day card. So all the guys would be making Father's Day cards, and I would tell my third grade teacher, I don't have a father. They'd say, oh, okay. And then in fourth grade, here it comes again, make a card, I don't have a father. And then my fifth grade teacher, I said to her, I don't have a father. And then she said, okay, well then just write a card for the Dodgers. I don't know.
Wow.
They were my surrogate fathers.
Well, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you all for joining us for this special PaleyFest Fall TV Previews conversation with the wonderful cast and creative team of Lopez versus Lopez. And thanks once again to Citi for their support. You can enjoy more of these programs by clicking the subscribe button below. The series premieres on Friday, November 4th on NBC and streaming the next day on Peacock. Thanks and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.